I'm Lauren Moraski, and you're watching Build Series live in New York City. Our next guest is an actor, singer, songwriter, and dancer. He's graced the Broadway stage for years, and you may also know him from the hit show Glee. He just released an album of Disney covers called Disney Dreamin. I'm happy to be joined by Matthew Morrison.
Hello, Lauren.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Matthew?
I'm so well.
We are so excited to have you here today at Build.
With our beautiful audience. Hello, everyone.
Hey. Yeah, it's a little quiet today, but we have so much to talk about. That is for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's talk a little bit about this Disney album.
Okay.
I understand it's really close to your heart.
It is. I mean, well, I think Disney in general is so close to all of us. It's this franchise. It's so multi-generational. You know, I remember playing vinyl records of these like Zippity Doodah and Bare Necessities and stuff growing up, and I absolutely love the music of Disney. And you know, it's stuff that will be in our grandchildren's, and you know, it was our grandparents. You know, it's all there. But this for me was a dedication to my son Revel. After having a son, I have a whole new appreciation for Disney and for just my wife and I, we sing lullabies to him every night, and we have a dance party every morning when we wake up. So music is very just a big part of our household, and absolutely love this music, and was so thrilled when Disney approached me to do this.
So I understand that you were thinking about doing a children's album anyway, right? And so how did that scope change? And what did you have in mind initially, and then how did this come to be?
Well, I wanted to do an album and, you know, dedicate it to my son. I just felt really compelled to do that. And I guess Disney caught wind of that, and they said, we would love for you to do it. And honestly, it took a lot of weight off my shoulders because, you know, getting access to these gems of songs and would be way better than anything I could have ever written. But
they're really classic.
They're timeless, you know. And to put my name on a Disney record is amazing for me. And just since this album was released a couple days ago, it's just seeing it in it's huge in Japan and Brazil and stuff, territories that I probably wouldn't have, I guess, translated to in other words, because it has the Disney name to attach to it.
Yeah, talk a little bit more specifically about what films these songs come from, because we have like Toy Story and Aladdin, right? And Pinocchio.
Yeah, it's all across the map. So I wanted to do like the older generation. That would be, I guess, like Pinocchio and Cinderella. And then it skews into what I call the Renaissance of Disney, which is Pinocchio, Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast. Pocahontas, I meant to say.
Yeah.
And then I'd never seen Toy Story before I had my son, and I was really just kind of open. My eyes were open to that, and just I put "You've Got a Friend in Me" from that amazing franchise, and yeah, so it kind of I really wanted to kind of touch upon everything. I honestly could have done 5 albums, and hopefully I will. Maybe I will.
Maybe it's like the first of a series.
I know. We'll see. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I remember growing up and listening to Aladdin.
Where'd you grow up?
Singing it right in Long Island, not too far from here. But like Aladdin was part of our chorus, for example. We would sing the songs, and like I know every song by heart. And so when I listen to this record, I'm brought back to my youth. Like, what do you think about when you listen to this?
Well, I'm definitely brought back to my youth. My youth was very centered around Disney because I grew up in Orange County, which is where Disneyland is. My buddies and I, we had annual passes. We called ourselves the Lost Boys. You know, it was just this really tight-knit crew of just guys and girls just really just going out and having fun, good, clean fun at Disneyland, you know? Our big thing was like, you know, if we would meet a girl there, like the big thing was like to hold hands with her on a ride. Oh my God, I held her hand. It was amazing. Yo.
But no, but it's a thing though.
It is a thing. It was beautiful. I think my parents felt very happy and safe having me at Disneyland.
Yeah, well, you know, now you're transferring these songs to your kid. How old is your kid?
2.5.
2.5.
Yeah.
How much has life changed since you became a dad, and how so?
I can't even put it into words. It's something that is so transformational. Honestly, it's more about the love. I've never known a love like this. This is probably the greatest role I'll ever play in my life is to be a father. You know, all these people tell you all these horror stories about being a parent, about, oh, watch out for this, but terrible twos, blah, blah, blah. They never really talk about the joy. And I am so filled with joy. It's my favorite part of my day is just wrestling and just rolling around on the ground with my son. It's the best. And bath time, like that's our special time. I just absolutely love it. And it's I really want to kind of, for parents in general, but especially for fathers, really encourage them and give them purpose, help them find the tools they need to kind of fill in the gaps in what they can do. I feel like mothers have this kind of thing where they go through pregnancy, they have the baby, and they have these expectations like to have it all figured out.
Sure.
Women do, and there are no expectations on guys, where I feel like there should be. So I want to try to help in some way to kind of shift the. Well, I feel like guys are being more proactive than they have been in the past, but I think we can do more.
Yeah, it's an interesting perspective on it. I think you're right. There is kind of like a, I don't know, to say double standard, but there is a way where there's like that extra emphasis on the mom, and it's really, it takes a village to raise a kid.
Yeah, and everything we see too in media is, the guy at the couch just watching, flicking through the channels and stuff. It's the Homer Simpson and just like the lazy dad just drinking beers or whatever. And so I want to be present and proactive, and that's how I choose to parent, and it's changed my life. It has. I mean, I think being a parent changes anyone's life, but it's I'm not gonna lie. It's the most challenging thing ever, but its rewards are so great and vast.
It's a lot of work. I can kind of relate to that, to the horror stories you hear. I have a
right?
1-year-old.
Yeah.
It's her birthday today.
Oh,
It's crazy, but I understand that because you all hear the bad stories, but then there are so many great things, and to share the love of music that it seems like your household has. It sounds like music's on all the time. Are you singing to him? Like what's
it is. I mean, and especially because I feel like some parents really take the easy way out and just put the screen on, and it's great. It's like an amazing babysitter that you don't have to pay for. Well, I mean, you pay your Netflix and Hulu and all that stuff, but I think music really kind of ignites the imagination, and to have that and see that in a child, and really have dance parties. We just love waking up, and that's the first thing we do is move our bodies. We call it a dose. You get your dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins, all your natural highs you get from dance. So that's what we love to do, and music is obviously the catalyst for all of that.
That's awesome. Well, I want to talk to you about other things that you have going on. I heard you just got back from London. You were hosting or actually judging a show, right? A dance show.
Well,
dance competition?
We didn't call us judges. We were dance captains.
Oh, dance captains.
I know.
Okay.
I was so confused.
What was it like tapping into that sort of skill or,
Well, it's interesting
expertise?
Because I'm a dancer, and it's something that I have not done in quite some time. So this is our second season doing that show. It's a Simon Cowell show, and it's really well done. It's amazing, and I feel like it's an extension of being a father because I get to actually mentor these kids, and for me, it's a way of passing the torch to the next generation of dancers. So I absolutely love it, and it's a great joy. But the hardest thing is actually because you watch these reality shows or these competition shows, I should say, and you see all these judges, and you're wondering who are they? Why do they judge? What does their opinion mean to me? But we actually put our money where our mouth is in every show. We have an opening number where we actually dance. So it was difficult. Yeah.
You said you hadn't danced in a while. Is it easy as like riding a bike, or do you feel like you have to practice and rehearse?
Well, I'm in my 40s now, and so it is like riding a bike, but the recovery time is a little different. Yeah, I would say.
It's a lot of things once you hit your 40s, right?
I'm like, I got to keep my neck, I just all these things, but the joy is still there.
Yeah, exactly. We saw you last, I guess it was in the fall, on American Horror Story, which was another Ryan Murphy production.
Yeah.
What was it like tapping into that acting skill again and working with Ryan again?
It was amazing to do that show, which is such a huge franchise, was really, really cool. I was actually supposed to release my Disney album in August of last year, but that's when the show was happening, and And there was a lot going on in that show that was not very Disney friendly, so I chose to kind of push the album back a little bit. But for me, it was a great way to get back on television. I'm constantly on television, but to be a part of a show that is so iconic now in the public eye, and yeah, to be in part of that family again, the Ryan Murphy and Brad Falchuk family. It was great. Absolutely loved it, and would love to go back for more, and whatever that means, wherever it goes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I guess it's been how many years since Glee went off the air? It's been like
five, I think. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I remember the finale. It sort of like takes place. They show you Flash of the Future, and it's like 2020 at some point, which is where we are now.
Oh, that's right.
Which is really weird.
Yeah.
How do you feel like that show? How did you feel like the end of that show? Wrapped
Honestly,
up.
you're talking about it. I was like, was that what happened?
Yeah.
I don't remember it.
Right? It's a blur.
It felt like one long show to me.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's hard to like think about. Everyone's like, "What's your favorite episode?" I was like, "Oh, I don't know."
It was on for so many years,
yeah,
right?
and for us, we shot all these episodes, not an episode at a time. We were like, it's called block shooting, where you shoot like going from episode to episode because the show was so hard to film. We did like 16 hours a day, you know, recording studio, dance rehearsals, and then actually the filming of it as well. But for me, you know, it's been off the air, like you said, for 5 years. But there's a whole new generation that are like fresh to it right now. You know, with Netflix and all the streaming stuff, you can, you know, this whole new generation is being exposed to it for the first time. Which is cool.
Which is really cool. I mean, do you think if that show premiered, you know, this year, now, like after, you know, many years after it premiered, would it still have the same relevance, or it's interesting?
No, it is interesting, and I feel like it hit at a certain moment, and I guess to answer your question, I would say no.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it was so timely in when it came, and I feel like we were all ready for it. I feel like the underdog story was so prevalent, and whoever was in the White House was so prevalent, and it was just, yeah, it was a certain moment.
Yeah, I mean, there was just, and it touched on so many important issues, and it told so many important stories, I felt.
That was the best part about the show for me, because you see actually the effects, I call it the Glee effect, that it has on high school bullying, on being gay in high school, and all that stuff. And for me, just to see the global impact that show had, you know, I think it's because music is the language that we all speak. So that show did so well internationally. I think it opened people's eyes. The perfect thing I can think of is like a family sitting down watching that show and then having a conversation afterwards and just talking about what they just saw. So it was a stunning show to be a part of, and what a legacy to leave behind.
Yeah, it's one of those shows that I know people talk about reunions and rebootings that I don't know if I could imagine this one being rebooted. Can you?
I can't. Just because honestly, there's so much tragedy that happened with the show as well, with a couple of cast members passing away, and then I don't know if it's the right time for. If anything, I feel like there would be like a really cool like benefit concert where we all got together and raised money for a really great cause.
Right. Yeah, and it kind of kicked off like a love affair with a cappella and everything. It really was that special time. It was really, really special. So.
Well, being in the UK, like they didn't even know what a Glee Club was. So it wasn't even a thing. So now there's Glee Clubs all over the place there. So it's interesting seeing that.
How much did your life change personally since, because you were doing tons of Broadway stuff and you did some TV, but this was like a really starring turn on a weekly show.
Yeah, I think people knew who I was in New York City, but beyond that, it was who? You know, it was very anonymous, I guess. But definitely internationally, it's really helped my career, my music career. I play a lot in Japan and in the UK and Australia. Really amazing markets that I probably would not have had the access to if it wasn't for that show.
What's a Matthew Morrison show like when you perform?
I like to say it's a mix between Frank Sinatra and Gene Kelly. I'm very much a song and dance man, and I like to just throw it all in there in that show. And it's an exhausting show for me to do, but I love what I do, and I want to keep doing it as long as I can. So I definitely feel like I give the audience their money's worth.
You got your start here. We're here in New York. You got your start really here. I mean, you're at NYU, right, for a little bit. And then
Right
you
across the street.
Right
I had a class right in that building.
Oh my gosh, memories. That was like 20-something years ago, I'm
What?
sure, for
No,
you.
no, it was last week.
Last week. But then you had so much success because you were you were auditioning and then you ended up in Footloose. Like, how did that all come about for you?
I came here from California, Southern California, and I went to NYU, and I knew I loved the theater program and stuff, but just school wasn't my thing. And NYU had a very strict no audition policy, so I went off and I kind of said, okay, I'm gonna go.
Right?
And I went and I found I got an agent, and my third audition, I got my first Broadway show, and I was 19 years old. I was a year and a half into school, and I dropped out. But that was where the real, I think, training for me started, to really be in the workforce, to be around my peers, and to learn from them, and to learn from people who had been doing this business for a long time. And I don't, for one day, regret that decision.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like you really learned on the ground. Officially.
Yeah, and I think in this business, that's where you learn, because there's so many things in school they don't teach you about the real business. Right. They teach you about what you have in your songbook, what monologue you should do, but beyond that, it's kind of like, okay, what business decisions do you need to make? What I don't know. For me right now, I'm getting to this whole new phase of my life where I have more of the entrepreneurial spirit, and I'm starting this thing called Museum of Dance, which is this immersive theater experience that takes you through different decades of dance history. Oh. So you're learning the history of dance, like how in the 20s, how Prohibition led to like flappers. In the 40s, how wartime led to people just cut loose and swing dance. Mm-hmm. But you actually go through these decades, and you not only learn the history, you learn the dances as well. So you burn while you learn. Wow, I call it. Awesome. Yeah,
it's really cool.
Yeah, so it's gonna be it'll be in New York City this fall.
All right, we'll have to look out for that. Do you remember the moment where you thought to yourself, "Okay, this is what I'm meant to do"?
Honestly, it was the first time I got on stage when I was 10 years old. Wow. My parents sent me to Arizona for the summer to hang out with I have a lot of family there, and they threw me and my cousin into a play for the summer, this musical. And I'm an only child. I felt like I always had this wild imagination, but I never had an outlet for it. And the first time I was on that stage, that was my outlet. And I just loved it so much. And then people clapped at the end. I was like, whoa, this is so cool.
You're like, this is what it could be like? I'm 10,
right? and I came back home and I said, this is what I want to do with the rest of my life. My parents were like, oh, and they're both in the medical field. So they were just like, okay. But they were very supportive throughout it all.
Yeah, and look at you now. This is what you're doing. This is your career.
I'm here with you, Lauren. Here we go.
Here we are.
Let me high five myself.
Yes.
Hey.
So is this your third album, I would say, or like?
It's technically my fourth because I had a Christmas album, one of those things. But my third big album, yeah.
Your first album had a lot of collaborations on it. I remember Gwyneth Paltrow and then Elton John.
Right? And Sting.
That is pretty awesome. And you're buddies with Elton, right? Or kind of buddies.
He's a friend of mine. It was just an ask, and I think it was because I was probably doing one of the biggest shows at the time, it's totally not lost on me how amazing that is to have those people on my album. But going to this album, the first one was a pop album, the second one was a standards album, and you have to kind of stay in your lane with these kind of albums. This album, you can go all over the place. This is the most fun I've ever had doing an album because I had so many different characters I could play, so many different genres of music, and I had so much fun in the studio. But I guess at the end of the day, I was also just thinking about my son the whole time. It was just such a beautiful experience, yeah.
How did you decide to make these your own? I mean, these are classics we talked about, before. How do you make them Matthew Morrison?
It's hard. That was probably one of the hardest things because, You'll Be in My Heart is so synonymous with Phil Collins. How do you do that? I went in and kind of worked with this producer and really just wanted to make them my own, but I've heard so many Disney versions that kind of like bastardize the song, and I didn't want to fall into that category. But really just for Go the Distance, that song that was playing earlier was, I had like a Mumford and Sons kind of vibe that I wanted to have to that. So each song I kind of had a vibe that I wanted to throw in there, and it's very eclectic album, and you know, 5 songs are like lullabies and 5 songs are dance parties, and it's fun.
And it's like for everyone. It's not just for kids. It's for everyone. Anybody who's grown up with this, who is just discovering the song sometimes for the first time because now you're watching Toy Story because you have a kid.
Yeah.
And I think I'm very excited to tap into it some more. All right. So one last question before we go to Twitter questions.
Okay.
What do you think for the next album for you? Do you think you do more Disney, or do you think you go somewhere else?
I think so. I mean, this album just came out, so I can't even wrap my head around it, the next album. But like I said, the catalogs for Disney are so deep that finding 10 songs was incredibly hard just to narrow it down to that. So I could do 5 albums of Disney. I love the collaboration. They have been so amazing with me and just kind of giving me like free reign to do whatever I wanted to do. So it was a really amazing collaborative and creative process for me. And I'm just so enjoyed my time.
Well, we look forward to seeing what's next. But before I let you go,
okay,
we have a Twitter question.
Come on, Twitter.
All right. Generic Insight. What was your favorite scene to shoot in AHS 1984, American Horror Story, of course, and who did you enjoy working with?
My favorite scene to film with, I'm trying to think what scene. It was definitely with Billie Lourd. She is so phenomenal and just so much energy and just an amazing person. I really just like took to her. We just had a great time on set with each other. It might have been one of the first scenes we had with each other was we were kind of skinny dipping in a lake. And then I went underwater and something happened. So yeah, that was probably the most fun. Yeah.
That sounds like a lot of fun. All right. And the last Twitter question is from Ashley Dowell, and she asks, if you could revive any Broadway musical, which one would it be?
Ooh, Ashley. I would probably say Assassins.
Why so?
I don't want to say my answer right now, but it's just one of my favorite musicals. I love it. It's so like under the radar, like no one really. Have you heard of it?
No.
Yeah, it's a Stephen Sondheim musical, but it's so good. But it's dark. It's a dark comedy, but it's about all the people who have tried to or have assassinated a president in the United States. So it's interesting.
Like, yes.
But anyways.
Interesting time. Well, there's on that note, but there's so many great music. I'm not going to wrap it up now.
And let's segue out of that somehow. Good answer.
And I'm usually very good at
Thanks for asking, Ashley. So Disney Dreamin' is out everywhere streaming, but you can also buy it at your local, wherever you buy Tower Records. No, not that.
No, you know what? This was a Tower Records.
I know it was. I used to come in here.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah,
Oh.
this was.
Oh, it still has that smell. I can smell it.
Exactly. I think the cash register.
I can walk out of here with my little yellow bag.
But that said, Broadway, I mean, whether or not you do Broadway again sometime soon, maybe on
I
the
hope
horizon?
so.
Okay.
That is my love. It's got anything I do right now. It takes a little more thought because it's got to be something special to take me away from my family. So that's just what's weighing on my mind. Yeah.
All right. Well, meanwhile, if anybody wants to get their Matthew Morrison fix, they can check out Disney Dreamin'. So thank you so much for coming by today.
Thank you, Lauren, for having me.
All right.